Hello YouTube world, hope you're all doing okay out there. Today we're looking at another army surplus curiosity. This is new old stock. This is the Swiss Army Volcano stove. You have to excuse the banging in the background, seems like one of my neighbours is repairing their fence. This particular model, JE76, which I'm assuming would mean it was made in June 1976. It's made of aluminium. It's quite lightweight. And it's made of 4 pieces. We've got the cup. The main burner unit, aluminium container and a cork. Size wise, the height of the main burner unit is 17.5 centimeters or just under 7 inches. It's got a width, external width of 9 centimeters or just over 3.5 inches. The aluminium bottle that slots inside, that holds 950 millilitres up to the neck. And with regard to the cup, it's got a total height of around 12 centimetres or 4 3/4 inches. Up to that inner rim, it holds 350 ml. It's got a capacity of 500 ml of fluid. Back in the 1970s, the Swiss Volcano stove was the equivalent of the BCB Crusader Cook Set. Essentially, they both have the same composition. They both have a main burner unit, they both have a cup, and they both have a means to store and carry water. That led me to think, would it be possible to make my own version of the Swiss Volcano stove using items I already own? And I also thought, now most of us are pretty much in lockdown, a lot of people don't have a lot of money. Would it be nice to kind of come up with something that kind of resembles this as a little project? So I started with my trusty Stanley Cook Set. A lot of us have got one of these. They're dirt cheap, pretty much indestructible, and an excellent piece of kit for the money. And this is where my fruit cocktail tin from Lidl comes in, because I worked out that the Stanley Cook Set fits beautifully inside the tin. So then I went about making my own Swiss Volcano stove, all for the price of a tin of fruit cocktail from Lidl. Now it had to be big enough to fit in a Trangier burner or any other burner that I decide to use. So I marked it out to follow as much as possible the idea behind the Swiss Volcano stove. I drilled it, I countersunk it, I sanded it, and then I cut the face out and I cut a hole big enough to put in the Trangier stove. I didn't realise at the time that tin cans are not the best things to be drilling and cutting because they're so thin, you get a lot of breakout. But I persevered anyway, and at the end of it all I had what looks like a modern day Swiss Volcano stove, albeit made out of a tin of fruit cocktail from Lidl. So here's the two stoves side by side. 1976 Swiss Volcano stove, manufactured in a factory. 2020 Stanley Cook Set fruit cocktail stove, manufactured in the shed. I was actually quite surprised how this turned out. It's a bit rough around the edges, but as proof of concept, I'm hoping it kind of works well. The additional 2 pins that I made to hold the pot up when it's lit inside, they also store neatly inside the tin for transit in order they don't get lost. The Swiss Volcano stove has been specifically designed to burn combustible material. Personally, I would like to use an alcohol stove. However, as you can see by the design, there's no way that's going to fit in the front. The only way you're going to get an alcohol stove in there is to lower it through the middle and hope not to spill your fuel. The fruit cocktail design I came up with would allow me to use a Trangia stove or any other stove I can think of really that will fit, and also be able to use the simmer ring if I needed to. I drilled an additional 2 3mm holes, which gives me a distance in height from the top of the Trangia stove to the bottom of the Stanley cup of just over 2.5 centimeters, which is about the optimum height to burn the fuel most efficiently. Okay, so how can this be used with an alcohol stove and not spill fuel everywhere? Well, I just happen to have a couple of wick stoves. These are actually speed stoves. I'll take the lids off so you can see. Hopefully you can get that there. All it is some wick inside a small container. You fill it up with your fuel and it doesn't leak anywhere. So that would enable you to be able to not lower it in that way, because it'd be a bit of a disaster. But that should enable you to lower that down into the bottom if you choose to use an alcohol stove. Of course, it'll also fit in my model as well. Okay, so apart from the obvious height difference between the two, I'm not sure if that will make this more efficient. The only other difference would be Stanley Cook Set cup has a lid. Well, it's time to take them out and compare them. What I'm going to do to make this fair is remove the lid and use exactly 350ml of water in each one. Light them up and see how long they take to boil. Well, that was an interesting experiment. I was well impressed with the Volcano stove. That brought that 350ml of water up to the boil quite quickly. As you can see, whatever alcohol fuel you use, you are going to get a certain amount of sooting on there, so be aware of that. With regards to this little boy here, the fruit cocktail stove, I was suitably impressed with that as well. Obviously, I didn't have the optimum height because this is set up for a Trangia. However, if you wanted to make one of these at home, you could also make yourself a little stand just out of some wire to give you the optimum height, 2.5 centimeters. Your pot will quite happily sit on top of that. The trangia, if you didn't want to use the simmer ring, you could also just use a trivet. That should, there we go, that fits in there. And we'll see. Your pot will fit on top also to give you your optimum height. Well, I hope you've enjoyed this video, and remember, if you don't happen to have a Swiss Volcano stove, or you want to make one of your own, which is a bit more in keeping with the 21st century, and you happen to have a Stanley Cook Set handy, along with a tin of fruit cocktail or similar. This one's got the net weight of 820 grams. Why not consider making your own and keep yourself entertained in lockdown? Thanks very much, everybody. Take care of yourselves, and I'll see you next time.